Hola a todos and welcome to the Familia Flamenca Online Academy. In this video we're going to dive deeper into Rumba Flamenco and we're going to look at the mechanics of the left and the right hand, an introduction into this art form, where it came from, what defines rumba, and we're going to break it down together very slowly, and hopefully this will be your first intro into this palo of flamenco. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's start this video with, what is rumba? Where did it come from? What is this style of music? So rumba is not traditionally a flamenco palo. A lot of purists in flamenco don't consider this one of the styles of flamenco, but it is included in the flamenco repertoire a lot of times. And the reason being is because of its history. So back in the day, when the Spanish explorers were colonizing the New World and they landed in Cuba, they heard the locals playing this kind of groove that we hear in rumba today, which they called rumba. And the word rumba actually comes from the old Cuban dialect, which means a party. It was actually their old form of saying a fiesta of sorts. And that's because it's a very upbeat, lively kind of dance, and the strumming and the groove is also kind of dance-like, so that's how it got its name. And when the Spanish explorers heard this, they were fascinated by this new type of music, so they decided that they were going to bring it back to Spain. And this started a classification in flamenco, which we called cante de ida y vuelta, which literally translated means a song that left and returned, because it left its original homeland, Cuba, and went to Spain back with the Spanish explorers. And once they brought it back to Spain, it spread throughout the country, becoming more popular, and of course, through time, we would have many great flamenco guitarists play the style, especially Paco de Lucia, who helped spark its popularity. So what actually defines a rumba? Well, there's actually a lot of things, and it's actually difficult to classify sometimes. A lot of flamenco guitarists will classify rumba as anything that's in 4/4 time, like our pop music and rock music, and it can be played in any key. That is not another palo. So that's where it gets kind of confusing, because we do have palos that are in 4 time, like tangos and farruca, tientos, colombianas as well. So this can be difficult to classify, but what I want you to think of is, if it's not any other palo that you play in flamenco, is it in 4 time? And is it in any kind of key, right? So if it fits those classifications, it's probably rumba. So we're going to take a look now at the groove of the rumba and how it works, because I would say that this is what defines the rumba itself. While we are in 4/4 time, like most pop and rock music, we have a slight difference in the groove here, and that is where we have a specific accent. We're going to make one of our beats a little bit louder, so that way the groove fits what we would think of to be rumba. And for rumba, it's on the and of beat 2, so it's syncopated, meaning that the click or the downbeat kind of feel isn't necessarily on the 1, 2, 3, 4. In this case, it's the 2 and. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. This, to me, is what defines rumba. So this can be tough to do at first, but I want you to get into your mind this groove. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and pay attention to how I'm counting it, because this is going to fit our strum pattern as well. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So count that first. And you don't have to put the accent right at the beginning, but just get used to counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. These are eighth notes if you know any kind of music theory or rhythm work. So if we had our quarter notes, it would just be 1, 2, 3, and 4, hence 4/4 time. if we take those notes and cut them in half, we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So you have to count it that way to get an eighth note. And that's the easiest way that I recommend doing it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now if we put the accent back in, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So again, paying attention to that accent on the 2 and, the and after the 2. That is the accent we need for our rumba flamenca. So now practice that first. And now we're going to take a look at our right hand pattern where we're going to combine strumming with the percussion, which is also one of the defining things of rumba that also makes it very popular. So let's take a look. We're going to be combining down and up strums with some percussion. So for now, we're just going to mute the strings. So that way I get no sound out of it so we can focus on what the right hand is doing. The first thing we're going to do is do down and up strums. And if you haven't learned how to strum with fingers yet, I'll put a card up at the top for you. So you can go check out my other Rumba Flamenco lessons that talk about similar context to what this lesson is, but it goes from the absolute beginning of teaching you how to strum as well. But for now, we're just going to go straight in. So we're going to do down and up with fingers. So first we have down, up is the first part of the pattern. So it's my fingers, I use my middle and ring that go down, and then my thumb, back of the thumb, I reverse and go back up. So down and up, down, up. So down with the fingers, up with the thumb, down with the fingers, up with the thumb. So we do that twice. So down, up, down, up. And this would be 1 and 2 and. So if you want to make it sound even more authentic, that last up, try and make it a little bit louder. 1 and 2 and. Dot, 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 dot. 1 and 2 and. Down, up. So when you do that, you're already getting that groove of rumba. So let's do it a couple more times here. Down with the fingers, up with the thumb, down with the fingers, up with the thumb. Down, up, up. Down, up. Or 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and. That is one of the more important parts in terms of the groove of our rumba compás or our rumba rhythm. From here, now we're going to start adding some percussion. So we have 1 and 2 and 3. On the 3, so after we do our down and ups, I'm going to slap my guitar. And depending on where you slap the guitar, you can actually get different sounds, and I'll demonstrate that later. I usually slap here, right above the sound hole, fairly close to the fretboard. I like the sound of it here. I think when we slap here, we get this nice, sharp kind of snare drum effect, which I like for my rumba. So I go 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3. So this is down, up, slap. So I'm using the inside of my hand here to slap. So it's acting as a mute, but also acting as percussion, because as we add force behind it, we're physically hitting the guitar, and that's going to appear into our music. So you're also being your own one-man band, per se, by adding percussion with your guitar playing. So again, we have down, up, slap the guitar. 1 and 2 and 3. To close our pattern, we just did this. 1 and 2 and 3. Now we need our 3 and 4 and part to close the rhythm and loop it. So after we slap, I'm going to take these fingers here and I'm going to graze them up. This is the and a beat 3. So 1 and 2 and 3 and. So see, I'm just taking these fingers and grazing them up. The speed here is important, because if I go too slow, like for example, if I hold a chord, you're going to hear that. What we want, here it sounds like one chord, it's one sound. So you hear there one solid sound versus that we don't want. That doesn't sound as nice for rumba. So we have 1 and 2 and 3 and. So down, up, slap, graze up. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Now to close it, for beats 4 and, we're just going to do another down and up, like how we did earlier. So the whole thing is down with the fingers, up with the thumb, down with the fingers, up with the thumb, slap the guitar. Graze up the fingers, down with the fingers, up with the thumb. So with our count, this would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that is the right hand pattern that we're going to use. Now we're going to look at the harmony of this rumba flamenco, and we're going to go back to the very basics and explain the Andalusian cadence. And as I put it, this is the most stereotypical Spanish chord progression that flamenco guitarists use all the time. And this is a good introduction if you've never done this before. So we're not going to get too much into theory, but I do want to explain this concept of how the cadence works. So if you've studied any kind of major and minor progressions in music, you might hear going 1-4-5 or 1-3-5, like for example an E major, that would go to a B7, and then back to E, for example. That's very major sounding, right? You would probably play this in pop and rock music, right? But in flamenco, with the Andalusian cadence, we're not going to do that 1-4-5 kind of idea. We're going to go 4-3-2-1. So we're going to use Roman numerals, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, for example. And we have our musical note letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. So there's A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, 7 letters. Now, our first chord for the Andalusian cadence, in this case, is going to be an A minor. That's going to be our 4. But then we're going to count backwards, because if we go to the end of the musical alphabet, we have G, right? So that would be our 3. Go back another letter, we have F. That's our 2. And then our 1, our resolution, and the key that we're in is actually going to be in E major. So we have 4, 3, 2, and 1. Or A minor to G to F to E. Don't worry if this sounds really confusing. I don't want you to overthink this. I just want you to hear this kind of da 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 kind of feel. That is the cadence, the Andalusian cadence. In this case, we're doing it in the E flamenco key, as my teacher and I like to put it. So let's break down the chord voicings I'm using. So here's our very basic A minor. So that's middle finger, 2nd fret on the D string, ring finger, 2nd fret on G, pointer finger, 1st fret on B, and we play these 5 strings from the A string down. Next, we're going to have a flamenco voicing of a G chord, which is much easier than regular G. It's only 2 fingers. It's ring finger, 3rd fret on the 6th string, and middle finger, 2nd fret on the A string. Everything else is open. In flamenco, we like a lot of open strings. It gives that open tone to it. So far we have A minor to G. And now we're going to go to what I call the flamenco F. And what this is it's not a bar chord F, which would sound like this. We have open B and E included. Again, much more Spanish sounding, right? A little more tense as well. So it looks like the bar chord on camera, but if you turn, again, you see I'm not laid down like this. I'm raised. So this is pointer finger on the 1st fret of the E string. Then we have ring finger, 3rd fret on A, pinky, 3rd fret on D, and middle finger, 2nd fret on G. And then our B and E strings here are open. And that's our flamenco style F chord. You will use this chord a lot if you continue learning flamenco. And then we're just gonna resolve to an E major, which is the same shape as A minor. We're just gonna move it towards us one string each. So now our fingers are on the A, D, and G strings, but same frets as before. So again, we have A minor, our flamenco G, our flamenco F, resolving to our E major. And if you want, when you end, you can go A minor to G to F to E flat 9, which is the same as E major, but you take your ring finger and slide it to the 3rd fret. Everything else stays where it is. Now you have a much more Spanish, tense sounding E, which sounds really nice as a conclusion chord as you finish your rumba. And those are the chords that you will need. Now we're going to combine everything that we've looked at. So if you're an absolute beginner and still getting used to the chord progression, you would probably want to start by just doing this, by counting to 4 on each chord. So for example, you would go A minor, 1, 2, 3, 4 G, 1, 2, 3, 4 F, 1, 2, 3, 4 E, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just to get used to this progression itself. Once that gets comfortable for you, then you can add the strum back in. So if you guys are ready, now we're going to combine everything really slow. And when you're performing rumba, it's up to you on how many cycles of the strum you want to do on each chord. I usually do 2, which would sound like this. So you see I have 2 slaps on each chord, because we only have 1 slap in each little rhythm cycle of our strum. Or you can just do 1. If you want something a little more upbeat, lively. But it really doesn't matter. For the purpose of learning and teaching, I prefer to do 2. So let's start on our A minor. And we're going to do 2 cycles of the strum on each chord. We're going to go really slow together. So here we go. So we have down, up, slap, up, down, up again, down, up, slap, up, down, up, G. Down, up, slap, up, down, up, switch to F. Down, up, slap, up, down, up, E. Down, up, slap, up, down, up. Okay, that's everything put together. Let's go a little bit faster without me counting. So here we go, starting on the A minor again. Sounds like this. And that's everything put together. And like I mentioned earlier, where you slap will change the sound of this as well, so I'll show you real quick. You can alternate as well. So I say the 2 main spots to hit are up here, close to the fretboard, and down here, closer to the bridge of the guitar. And depending on where you slap, you'll get different sounds. If you hit here, you get a higher pitched sound, but if I hit down here, it sounds more like a bass, right? It's a little bit lower. So you'll see rumberos, or people that specifically play rumba a lot, they will alternate. So they would go like this. If I slow it down, so down, up, slap, up, down, up, down, up, slap, up, down, up. You see, I'm moving my hand this way and this way, back and forth. to get different sounds. So if I slow it down here, here I get two different sounds percussion-wise. And that's a very common thing that you'll see rumberos do. But you don't have to. You can pick one that you like better, or if you want to try it, you just have to watch your hand and move it as you play. That's the toughest part. But if you're a beginner, pick one, you'll be just fine. The best thing about this lesson, about rumba in general, is that you can apply any of this knowledge to any chord progression. So what we did with the Andalusian cadence for this video is we did what I call the E flamenco key, where it's in this key that goes to F. We went A minor G, F, that resolves to E. We can also do the A flamenco key. These are the two big flamenco keys that we have. The A flamenco key is D minor, that goes to C major, that goes to a B flat, that goes to A major. So if I keep everything the same, I would have a rumba that sounds like this. Now we have a different sounding rumba, but I use the same exact chord progression, at least with how it progresses, and I use the same right hand pattern as well. So just from this, you can have two. You can have the E flamenco version, or the A flamenco version. And just from that, we have two different rumbas. But you can also go out there and find any chord progression you want, throw this pattern over it, and see how it sounds. And before we wrap up this video, I do want to give one more progression. Since we're on the topic of rumba and its popularity, I want to talk about the chord progression of Entre dos Aguas by Paco de Lucia. So a very, very popular rumba. It's usually one of the first rumbas that people hear that gets them into flamenco in general, actually. So it's only a few chords. It's an A minor 7, that goes to a bar chord B minor, back to the A minor 7, to a B7. So this is a little bit tougher if you're a beginner, if you don't know bar chords yet. It's a good introduction to bar chords, but it might be a little bit tricky at first. So if you're a little more advanced on the guitar, this would be a better practice for you. But again, you can keep that right hand the same. So again, it's A minor 7, it's 2 fingers. If you build your A minor like before, and just remove your ring finger, so now you have an open G. That's our A minor 7. Then we're gonna bar the 2nd fret, 5 strings, and we have what looks like an A minor shape underneath the bar. Or our ring finger, we can think of this as 2nd fret, you know, if we have a bar here. 2nd fret on the D, pinky 2nd fret on G, and then the middle finger, we have 1st fret on the B string. That's our B minor. Then it goes back to the A minor 7 that we did before. And then we're gonna do B7, which is a 4-finger chord, very popular in guitar music in general. That's middle finger 2nd fret on A, pointer finger 1st fret on D, ring finger 2nd fret on G, and then our pinky finger 2nd fret on the high E string, the 1st string. And that's all we need for Entre dos Aguas. So it's A minor 7 to bar chord B minor, back to A minor 7 to B7. Now if we add our chords and our right hand together, we have this. So now we have a Paco version. So just from this lesson, you have 3 different keys that I gave you. We have the E flamenco Andalusian cadence. We have the A flamenco Andalusian cadence. And we have the Paco Entre dos Aguas version. these are great for practicing rumba. So have fun with these, but also find your own chord progressions and have fun with it. And that's all I'll give you for this lesson. I hope you enjoyed doing a deeper dive into Rumba Flamenco. And if you're a beginner, not yet into the style playing it, I hope that this is a good introduction for you to get into the art of rumba, and hopefully into the art of flamenco in general, because you might end up progressing to play more traditional flamenco. So I hope you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button down below, comment down below as well. Feel free to send me links of you guys playing rumba, and I'll be happy to watch them. And be sure to hit that bell so you get notifications of when I post as well. And I will see you next time. Hasta luego.